Omar was 27 years old when his best friend Salman called him at 10 in the evening from London and asked him to be the best man at his wedding. The wedding would be in a small English village outside Manchester. The bride, whose name was Emma, came from a large, warm English family. There would be, Salman said, around 200 people at the reception. Some would speak Urdu, most would not. And the best man, according to English tradition, would need to give a speech in front of everyone, in English, for at least 5 minutes. Salman said, warmly and quickly, that he knew this was a lot to ask, but he would not want anyone else to stand beside him on that day. Omar said in careful, slow English that of course he would come. When he hung up, he sat on the edge of his bed for a long time and stared at the small dark window of his flat and felt something small and cold crawl into his stomach and settle there. The wedding was in 90 days. Omar had known Salman since they were 7. They had shared a school bench, a bicycle, 3 broken cricket bats, and at 15, a small hidden dream of doing something serious with their lives. Salman had gone to London at 22 to study computer engineering. Omar had stayed home to help his mother after his father's stroke, and had, over 5 years, become a competent IT support technician at a small firm in his mid-sized city. He was, on paper, decent at English. He could read technical documentation. He wrote polite English emails to his manager. He understood most of the British YouTube tutorials he watched on evenings when he could not sleep. He had never in his life given a speech in front of 2 people, let alone 200, and never in English. He tried for the first 2 weeks to solve the problem the way he had always solved problems. He wrote a speech in Urdu. He translated it slowly and carefully into English. He printed it. He read it aloud to his empty bedroom. It sounded like a school textbook reading itself. He read it aloud to his mother, who spoke no English, and she smiled at him gently and said it was very nice. He read it to his cousin Bilal, who had spent a year at university in Karachi and who spoke reasonable English. Bilal listened patiently and then said, warmly, "Cousin, it sounds like a lawyer reading a will." Nobody at a wedding wants to hear a lawyer read a will. Omar sat on his bed that night and cried a little quietly in the way of men who have not cried since childhood and have forgotten the shape of it. That evening he found a small, quiet video on his phone made by a woman with a soft voice, who said something Omar had never heard anyone say quite that way before. She said that most learners had been trying for years to add a language to who they were. She said this was the wrong idea. She said that a language was not something you added to yourself. It was something you slowly became. She said that if a learner practiced the small habits of an English speaker every day for 90 days, they would not have learned English. They would have become a person who spoke English. The woman gave a small list of habits. Omar wrote them all down on a piece of paper he stuck to his bedroom wall. Speak from the very first day. Learn small phrases instead of single words. Repeat everything until it lives in your mouth. Copy the exact rhythm of a real speaker until his rhythm becomes yours. Think in English about your own small life. Fill your day with English inputs. Read your own writing aloud. Track your mistakes without shame. Rehearse the specific situation you fear. Believe quietly that you are already becoming the person you want to be. He began the next morning. He threw away the speech he had written. He decided that he would not memorize sentences. He would build the speech over the 90 days out of small, warm phrases he actually knew how to say. He found a British best man's speech online, given by a warm, middle-aged man at some other wedding, and he watched it 30 times. He did not try to memorize it. He noticed instead the rhythm of it, where the man paused, where he smiled, where he lowered his voice, where he raised it, where he made a small, warm joke about the groom. Omar began, softly in his bedroom, to imitate the rhythm of that speech in his own words about his own friend. It felt strange for 4 days. On the 5th day, it did not. He found a slow British podcast about weddings and family life. He listened to it for 20 minutes every morning while he made his tea. He did not stop to look up words. He let the small, warm shape of English fall over his ears the way he had once, as a boy, let the sound of the mosque call fall over the rooftops of his childhood. He was, without meaning to, letting the language settle in him. He began in the 2nd week to talk to himself in English throughout the day. He said aloud in his flat, "I am making tea now. I am going to the office. I am tired but happy." He said quietly on his walks in the small park near his building, "Salman is getting married in 78 days. I am glad. He is my brother. He answered himself in English in the small, careful voice of a man learning to think in a language he had once only translated. He learned from the small, quiet video to collect chunks instead of words. He wrote down small, warm English phrases in a notebook. "It is my great honor to. I have known him since we were. Everyone in this room knows that. Let me tell you a small story. What I want to say most of all is." He practiced these small phrases aloud 50 times each until they lived in his mouth without translation. He did not learn them as vocabulary. He learned them as small buildings he could stand inside. He shadowed the best man's speech from the internet every morning for 30 minutes. He watched a small section, paused it, repeated it aloud, matching not just the words but the rise and fall of the voice, the small breaths, the small smiles. His accent was still Pakistani. It always would be. But his rhythm began slowly to become English rhythm, which was the part of the language his mouth had never before known. By the end of the first month, he could give a rough draft of the speech in front of his mother without reading from a paper. She did not understand a word of it. She said only, kindly, that his English sounded warmer than she remembered. He recorded himself once a week on his phone and forced himself to listen back, cringing, on Sundays. Each week's recording sounded slightly less frightened than the last. By the end of the second month, he was thinking in English for most of his day. He dreamed in English sometimes in small pieces. He wrote his to-do list in English. He asked himself English questions while shopping. Is this vegetable fresh? Do I need more soap? He no longer felt he was studying. He felt he was becoming. It was the strangest and most unexpected feeling of his adult life. He gave the speech in draft form to Bilal at the end of the second month. Bilal listened for 6 minutes without interrupting. When Omar finished, Bilal was quiet for a small, warm moment. Then he said, "Cousin, that was not a speech read by a lawyer. That was a speech given by a best friend." Omar sat down and did not answer for a long time. The night before the wedding in his small hotel room outside Manchester, Omar stood in front of the bathroom mirror and gave the speech one last time. His hands were steady. His voice was calm. He believed quietly that he was ready. He had said this sentence to himself in his bathroom mirror every morning for 89 days, on the advice of the woman in the video. "I am the man who will give this speech. I am already becoming him." The next evening, when the moment came, Omar stood up in front of 200 warm English strangers with a small glass of orange juice in his hand and spoke for 6 minutes and 11 seconds about the boy he had shared a bench with when they were 7, and the man that boy had become, and the woman that man had chosen, and the small honor of standing beside them. He made 2 small mistakes. He forgot one word and described it warmly instead. He heard laughter in the right places. He heard silence in the right places. He heard applause at the end that lasted longer than he had planned for. Salman hugged him and did not let go for almost a minute. Emma's mother, a warm woman with pale eyes, came to him afterwards and told him it was the best man speech she had ever heard. And Omar, whose ears had grown warm again, thanked her in careful, calm English and meant every word. A year later, a younger cousin, a boy of 22 whose sister was marrying a British man and who had been asked to give a small toast at their wedding, sat with Omar in a tea shop one afternoon and asked, in a small, tired voice, how it was possible for someone like him to prepare for such a thing. Omar thought for a long moment. He looked at the boy, who reminded him painfully of a version of himself. "Do not try to learn English," he said. "Try to become a person who speaks it. 90 days is enough. Every morning watch one small English video and copy its rhythm out loud. Every day talk to yourself in English about your own life. Collect small warm phrases you can actually say and repeat them 50 times each. Do not memorize a speech. Build one small phrase at a time. And every morning in front of the mirror, tell yourself quietly that you are already becoming the person who will give it." The boy frowned. 90 days, he said, that is all. Omar smiled the small smile of a man who had learned everything the slow way.